Oh, hello. Did that work? Let me see. Seems to. Okay, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for coming. This background blur is kind of annoying me. Hold on. Let me at least crank it down. There we go. All right, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for coming. If you're new here, essentially this is my kind of once a week live stream. Usually do it on Fridays after the close, trying new times just to see what it works. And also on Friday, just wasn't feeling the greatest, so I slept instead. Yeah, good camera, eh? It's funny enough, just my phone. I saw something online that I had a webcam that I spent 500 or so bucks on. And I just saw something online. He said, hey, your best, especially for Mac OS, your best camera you'll ever get is your iPhone. So just put my iPhone in there. It's a little program, plug it in, and there you go. So I can't use my phone while I stream, but that's probably for the best anyway because I'd get distracted. But so what we're going to go over today is we're going to go over crypto markets, forex market, equity markets, what I think of all of those, kind of what I'm looking at the time. We'll then scan through all of my scans, pick something for Monday, or yeah, pick something for the little short video that I do. That should be out on Monday, and then I will get the Stats Edge Pro stuff out. So, um, great day and time for UK based. Yeah, I like it. It's right in the middle of the day for me, so I don't know. Again, just playing. Look at numbers and that kind of thing. So again, with what I'm going to do, just so you guys know that if you go to statsedgetrading.com, which is right below you, and there's the pro product there, essentially what I do is I sit down and I do this myself every night. I compile that into a blog post and a Google Doc for the stocks I'm watching, and I upload that, and that is more or less, other than on top of the chat room and the live Q&A and access to my scans and things like that. But that's kind of the main meat of the product, which is just my research, right? That's what more or less I'm selling, is kind of my thought on the market to complement your own or to help learn how trader thinks, for lack of a better term. But let's just get right into it. And to do that, I will just hit that button right there and then realize my camera is way too big for this. So let's just either move me or shrink me or both. Let's just do that for now. There we go. And then I always like to look at my chart out like that anyway. So it's good. So I think I always like to start with the videos that I do of stocks that I'm interested in and talk about if I played them and how I played them. If I remember last week, I think I only did one. Last week was a bit of just a bit of a bear when it came to webinars and presentations and things like that. So I just didn't have as much time as I'd usually like to for the channel, but let's take a look. Yeah, okay, so we had the Stats Edge Pro membership webinar. So again, if anyone's a pro member, the webinar is uploaded to the channel now. So that was an hour and 40 minutes I'm looking at there of just question and answer with me. Before that, so it was GameStop that I talked about last week. Oh, is this going to be difficult? Sometimes. It's one of those things with these new Macs. Excuse me for a second. With the new Macs that Apple made and has their processors inside, the apps that have updated for that are fantastic and work great, and the ones that haven't yet sometimes run pretty slow. So let's do this, and that's the same, just another remote way into the same app or the same desktop. But this one's been optimized for all the Apple stuff. So it works nice and smooth. Yeah, so last week we talked about GameStop. That was the one that I was kind of the most interested in going into next week. Turned out to be a great trade. I am still in a pretty significant chunk of GameStop. I got out some, like it hit 250, and then as it was selling back down through, I think a trailing stop got hit. I'd have to check the exact fill, but around 240, 230. But then still in, I think, two-thirds of the position. Again, just like the chart, not going to be one of those right buy and diamond hands forever type of people. That's just not what I do. All the power to them. I'm rooting for them, but I'm a trader, so I bought it kind of down as it broke out of, I believe it was like 190, just because again the technical analysis that I'd done on Friday, mainly looking at the weekly chart actually for GameStop. If we go in here and then we look at the weekly, yeah, I was just looking at this kind of consolidation that was happening here on the weekly. We had this wedge occurring right here. So I was just looking for it to break out of this wedge and then continue higher. So far it did that, but that is a pretty nasty wick. And if you go back and you look at the other wicks on the weekly chart, right after that, they were both preceded with pretty substantial downturns. So, I took some of my profits. I will hold the rest and we'll see what happens, right? I certainly won't let it cost me now. And then there's Blade. So this was one that I was looking at essentially for, let's see if the drawings are here. It had like a cup and handle kind of look, a newer issue. There it goes. So that's more or less what I was looking at. This big rounded base. Get out of here. This big rounded base, and then it came right up to touch the very top here, and then it had this nice kind of orderly pullback after that. And I basically just wanted to see a close over 10. So on Friday, it closed at 10.10, so I entered there. The worst case stop is going to be 9. You can see I put right up here. But, for me, probably if it closes under this 980, I would get out. And then if it gets back over 10, I would get back in. I rather take 2 small hits than 1 big hit is kind of the way that just my brain works with this stuff. As always, at the end, we'll do chart requests. So if you guys have an idea or you have something you want me to look at, save that for now, and then we'll chat about that at the end. And again, for pro members, I have the YouTube chat open, and then I also have the Discord chat open as well. So if you wanted to ask something in there a little bit more privately, you're perfectly able to do that. But that was it for last week. Those were the only things that I really did. So basically one winner and one I'm in, and we'll see. I think I put that out on Wednesday, and then on Thursday and Friday, or Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it did nothing, but finally got above that level right there. Some cool stuff that I did if you missed for Trader TV. If you're not watching, so Trader TV, if you search on YouTube, they've got a kind of a live stream on every Friday at 8:45 Eastern. I come in there and I give them a handful of ideas, more as a representative of trade ideas this time than being, the Stats Edge owner and all of that. INVA was another thing that I got in through there. Just high short float was kind of the theme of the last one. Won't be there next week, but definitely check out the streams. Getting a lot of positive feedback from that. They seem like really good guys too. I know the firm at least that they're working with. So, all right, now that's out of the way, let's get into the markets. So I always like to start with the crypto markets. Get those out of the way, and we'll zoom in here. You have a good slot on Trader TV. We like you a lot. Awesome, man. I'm glad to hear that. I like doing it. And again, I know that they're legit, and I always think that needs to be really rewarded in what we do, because there's so many people who aren't. But I know the prop firm that they work with. I actually got my start at what was an older version of that same prop firm. I know how it's all structured, and I know those guys, they trade for a living. So, um, I always like doing that. Again, then they're good old Canadian boys just like me. So, do they have a playlist? No, it's not really worth cutting it out just because it's only 5 minutes, right? I pop on there for 5 minutes is all they want me there for, and I kind of try to come up with a theme each week. Like this week's theme was that GameStop was moving. Therefore, I thought some of the other high short float were moving, so I just gave them a bunch of short float names that I thought was good. So it's kind of a theme each week. Really wouldn't be relevant from week to week, so I don't really bother them to get them to cut it out. You can go back, and if you scrub right to the 8:45 Eastern time, you'll find me. But really, I think it's very topical, right? Um, so first with the big guy Bitcoin. Let me make sure my face. Okay, I'm not in the way of anything here. So again, for the pro members, this is the kind of thing you'll see, right? I take all these charts and I annotate them up like this, and I kind of give my thoughts behind them, and then I just put them all in a blog post that only those people can see each night. And then I put what cryptos I'm interested in and what stocks I'm interested in and what level. Again, it's not a signal service. I don't believe in those. Again, it's what does Brett always say? It's research over signals, which I really like. So you can see how I think of them and how I trade them. We also have a Discord room where I talk about the stuff I'm taking and why. Again, not I'm buying here and selling here because I don't want people to follow me. I don't think that that's conducive to learning to be a good trader, but sometimes it's good because there can be follow-up questions of, oh, why did you do this instead of this kind of thing. So I'm just bringing that up. So anyone who's in the Google Doc right now, I can see one person hanging out. I'll be updating that as kind of things go by here, but Bitcoin is interesting. So I had up here that I actually had a little short, and I was public about that. Right in this area, covered some into this flash crash, but it was just because I had a standing order out there. Not significantly nearly enough, and I covered a little bit more here, and then I was trying to hold the rest. But first, we had this breakout from this cup and handle, which I took and sold into resistance. I thought the news of the ETF that everyone was so excited about would be another sell the news event. Bitcoin has this very old history of, as soon as Bitcoin futures were launched, that was the top, and then when I think El Salvador made it a legal tender right there. It has this very much, as soon as the news comes out, people sell. So I was hoping for another kind of a move like that. It doesn't look like I'm going to get it. So now I'm really, I've got to stop really tight on the rest. So it will be a profitable short anyway, but just not very much. Just because this is looking more and more like a bull flag. So I had another note here, you guys probably just saw me delete, where I was sell the news or a bull flag. Sorry, or a bull flag. And this is just, to me, more and more, the longer it goes, it looks like a bull flag. So in my mind anyway, if you're going to be revision to the mean trading, you go quick, right? So if I'm buying a top, I want that top to happen very quickly. When it kind of bases for a long time like this, to me, that's kind of just consolidating energy. And, one of the first things we're talked about in our CMT is, congestion, generally speaking, will resolve in the direction of the underlying trend. And right now, we've got a low here, and then we've got a higher high, and a higher low, and a higher high. So this is technically an uptrend. So I would expect this to resolve in the direction of the uptrend. So I'm going to be very quick to flip my short into a long when it comes to Bitcoin. This one, it's just looking bullish to me. And again, that will change if these kind of lows right here are ever taken. Call it like 5,800. If we sell and hold below those lows, then I think that will be out. But this is the list that I go through, and I've made this rant the last few weeks, but I know I've converted some people in which I'm saying just open a crypto account if you don't have one. Put $100 in it, if nothing else, and just start trading them. Because what I've noticed is, again, they trade like stocks. So you see all these levels, right? These are going to be in our the stats, the pro member um, or the Google Doc that we have. Because like this over two is really interesting to me. If we can get over two here, and we're holding these prior highs, we came back and tested them. Those acted as support, and then we've kind of been congesting here. So if we can break that to the upside, again, you just take a measured move from here and you apply it to there, and you're talking $3. If I can get in three and or two and out at three, I'll take that all day long. And just like with a lot of stocks, I don't know what these things do. Uh, there's my frustration with Atom. I am still in Atom. I've been buying. I have a kind of a couple month long trade going on with this one where when it came back to retest these prior highs, I bought some, got a nice bounce off it, sold some there. Obviously, wish I sold more. Bought more as it pulled back into low 30s, sold more on the trend line, bought more, sold more, right? I've just been doing that. So I'm just trading around like a core position, and my plan is to hold this core position of Atom as long as we stay over this $30 level. We break under the $30 level, it's all bets are now off, but that's kind of what I'm playing, hoping at some point we break this 45 or so, and then we get this measure move from that price up. Again, I don't know what Atom does. Right, I got no idea with any of these things, so I just trade them. So this one was on watch, and I did get some of it, but I'm going to take it off the list now because I don't like it as a trigger here. But just showing you again, they just trade like stocks. It's a nice little bull flag after a push up. Bought some at 140. We're at 158 now. And for me, it's still small because I'm, still worried about it. But, every time I have excess capital and I'm like, okay, where do I apply this capital? For me, it's instead of now going pretty much entirely into my stock funds, it's getting split more and more. Not quite 50-50, but it's getting split more and more to funding a larger trading account and some into a crypto account because I'm looking at this one now. I don't know no idea what this does, and really don't care. But if we can get over one, so watch one, and then our stop would be at max. I always put a worst case stop into these would be 0.8 down here, but that should probably say 0.9. And yeah, I just love trading them. It's one of those things where it's, I'm gonna put that in here, but bad one. It's they're starting to trade independent of one another. And the reason that I really wasn't harping on people of opening these accounts before is because before it was Bitcoin moved and everything else moved with it, or Bitcoin sold and everything else sold with it. And there wasn't really, if you opened a crypto account, it was to buy Bitcoin and maybe speculate on some other coins. Now I see it as these are completely independent. Again, I got this curve move from 3 and I took most out at 4, and I don't know what it is. Don't know what they do. Just again, it's another instrument for me to trade that is different than the other ones. And then we have Doge here. I'm in some Doge at around 27 cents. Again, just looking at, let me delete. I don't really care about that fib anymore, but if we take, just a really, oh, hold on. Still getting used to this. A really kind of long, I've heard this called a fry pan bottom. anything like that, where it's just a huge area of consolidation here. If Doge ever gets going, you could very easily pop to 4, which would be these prior highs right here. So I still kind of like Doge over 27 cents, and you can stop it at 25. So it's funny because looking at my list now, the crypto list is starting to get as big as the stock list. Um, I will never be a crypto only trader. I don't think that's going to happen. I just like the concept of the fact that I trade everything, right? Ether continues to be king. I think that's still a valid statement, where Ethereum has been much stronger. If you remember that Bitcoin chart, it's struggling at these prior highs right here, but Ethereum is just blown right through, and it's holding above. So Ethereum to me is definitely going to be the stronger of the two. And then what I do is, when Ethereum is strong, I look at the other smart contract names. So I think Algorand does some smart contracts. Like Solana definitely is smart contracts. Solana is like a direct competitor to Ethereum. Atom does something with smart contracts. And a lot of these cases, I can actually short them as well. Not all of them. It's different per crypto based on Kraken where I trade. It's going to be different for everybody. But yeah, you can actually trade those and short them, right? So if there's names that look like they're underperforming and they're going to do poorly, well, let's look at them at the other side, right? And again, Matic, don't think, I'd have to check. I may have gotten this one. But yeah, just over 165 and then just goes. It's a very technically sound market. And Mina, whatever Mina is, I'm watching that over 5 as well. I would like, and if anyone from Trendspider is watching, it would be super cool if you guys built in for lack of a better term, a sector list for crypto. And I know it'd have to be done manually, but there's basically cryptos that are trying to be currencies. There's cryptos that are trying to be stores of value. There's cryptos that are smart contract based. There's cryptos that are game based. PAX G, for example, I know is just gold. It's digital. It's actually digital gold. Quantum, I'm in. I'm in some at 15. Again, don't know what it does, but this one I'm kind of just moving my stop up under this prior resistance. I kind of don't like how long it's chopping here, but it looks interesting. But yeah, it would be cool if there was like a sector, so I could say, oh, this one's a competition to these other ones, or this one's like Sand, I think, is a game maker. I think, don't quote me on that. There's going to be some real crypto heads that watch this that get mad, but Solana, I just missed this move entirely. Such a great move, and probably not over, but just no setup for me there. Just a beast. I know JC's over there mining cryptos now. Everyone's kind of getting into it. And I think there's room for more people to get into it. So I always say open up an account. So again, I always just like to summarize. So my thoughts on the crypto market is everything looks strong. There's really nothing to be negative about in my mind in the crypto space. I don't think you really can be short this responsibly right now, other than Bitcoin. So really what I'm doing, and this is, I guess, kind of going to be my closing thoughts on crypto here, but I think this is important, is if you just take whatever this high was on your crypto, right? So look at that and just focus on that for just a quick second, and let me go to Atom. Why not? And then I'll highlight the same high, which would be kind of right here. So look at that May rally high. And what I'm doing, again, I'm not giving you advice. I'm just some guy you found on the internet. But if you're above that high, it's time to start looking for trades. Or if it looks like you're going to break that high, you can look for trades. If you're under that high, it's either a no-go or a short. And that's just kind of the way that I'm playing it. Is I think things that are under and holding under that high are going to be the relatively weak ones, and the ones holding over that high or moving higher are going to be the relatively strong ones. So just a quick kind of rule of thumb for the way I'm trading it. Um, I'm still watching this yen flag, I guess, on to actual currencies. But this yen, right, you can see this big push up in yen, and then we've been putting in this flag ever since. So I'm looking for kind of a close over 114 to participate. As long as we stay over 114, this thing could make another move. If not, we could pull back down. The only trade I have going right now in the FX space, I don't want to just scan through all of these right now. I want to get over to stocks, but yeah, is I bought this USD CAD over 24. I had this on the list, right? Again, anyone will tell you this has been on here for a while. Basically, just, support here, support in through here. Came back down pretty harshly, spent a week or two at that support. Maybe it's time to curl back up. I will say I'm biased with Canadian dollar because I want a weak Canadian dollar because everything I do, I get paid in US dollars, and I don't buy anything from the US. Every time I go to the US and spend money, I do so on someone else's dime. So for me personally, again, heavily biased, that's what I'm after. Just making sure that these are all the pictures that I wanted. Yeah. So again, what you guys are seeing now is I just tab through these pictures. This is what everybody in the pro membership gets each night. Now let's go over to the ETFs here and take a look through everything here. I'm leaving this in place again for the pro guys just to talk about, just to almost show how wrong I think I'm going to be. I said it was getting overdone here when we closed right at the high of the day on, what was that, Wednesday? And it's still looking overdone to me. And we have a spinning top here. Spinning tops, for me anyway, are a good way to mark turning points, especially when they happen in an incredibly overextended position, which we see here on the SPY. I'm not predicting a crash. I was one of the ones when in this market down here, when everyone was running for the hills saying, what are you guys doing? But, us pulling back a little bit to test this breakout area would be very healthy. This is something that I would see as a pretty strong move. If we pulled back and tested this and then went, that's good. It's just these moves sometimes get unsustainable. So when the sell-off day comes, it comes and it's harsh, and then that harshness can kind of can mess people up. But just it's strong. Anyone who comes in and has been calling the top of the market all year, just make sure you're ignoring from here on out, because right, just look at this thing. Right, every pullback has been met with buyers. If we go log, which always makes more sense to go log, right? I've heard on every dip, oh, that's the end. Oh, that's too much. Oh, this is a crazy Fed fueled rally. Oh no, we're printing too much money. Yeah, the world's coming to an end here. Oh, they'll see. And it's just, again, until then, until something happens so now this level needs to break, we're still in an uptrend. So as long as we hold above like 420 on the SPY, we're still in an uptrend for this. I wouldn't be shocked at all to see a pullback here. You'll get everyone coming out of their holes again saying, look, I told you this time. It's the end of the world. And then maybe bounce and go. Who knows? We'll react as it happens. Anyone who knows me knows I like looking at the RSP instead of the SPY. For anyone who's new here, the RSP is just an equal weight version of the SPY. So as opposed, the SPY basically has a heavy weighting in big tech names, Facebook, Amazon, Google, that type of stuff. So I remove that by looking at the RSP, which gives me a better understanding of the market. And the only thing I'm kind of worried about here, which I'll just put in a uh, possible doji top, because these dojis right at the highs. So dojis represent indecision when it comes to trading. The market rallied all the way up and then came all the way back down and has had this really hard time getting through and making up its mind. So sometimes these dojis can turn into morning and even evening star plays. So a morning star play is a big move up and then a doji at the top and then a move down after. And those are pretty powerful bottoming and topping signals. Again, not to predict the downfall of man, but just to say, hey, maybe it's time for another little pullback into here, or it's just going to chop sideways for a while. But just one of those that when it's up enough, at some point, someone's going to take profits. A new addition to something I've been watching a lot more of is this MDY, and MDY represents your mid caps. So, in my opinion, there's a lot of people out there that spend way too much time looking at the SPY. Let's remove that, do it again. And the reason I think they spend way too much time looking at the SPY is because they trade mid caps or small caps. Most traders, there are some traders out there that only trade large caps. I don't know if I would recommend that just because I think there's way more percentage move opportunities in the mid and small caps. But those who trade just large caps, yes, look at the SPY. Myself, who will trade anything, give me a chart and I'll trade it. Um, I like to look at what the other ones are doing. So for that, I was using the RSP and I was using the small caps, but now I also like to look at the mid caps, which again, the same thing. So the last time I posted this, I said the pullback was expected, which was this pullback right here. And then I'm just going to point out this doji top. And they're just called spinning top patterns, right? It's just a doji or a, you know, dreidel. Is that thing that spins? But again, just possible short-term top. Incoming is what I'm saying. And then IWM's the same, but we finally got a breakout. And this is kind of another pet peeve of mine. The people who are saying, okay, we need a correction. We need a correction. This market's been crazy since the pandemic lows. But if you look at the Russell 2000, which is, the Russell 2000, I think is 90%, or no, it's 80 something percent of all tradable instruments are in the Russell 2000, and it's been in a range all year. So I think that was our correction. I really do think that we are in for a incredible bull run over the next in 2022, barring another variant or some sort of other thing going on that no way to know if they happen. But I think we're in for another insane bull market because, again, let's put this in context. Let's go into, say, weekly candles. And weekly candles really clean this up, don't they? Where if I were to say, hey guys, what's this technical pattern? Right? You could call it a flag, you could call it a high tight base, but we pushed up, we took a rest for almost an entire year. It's a very extended base for a bull flag, and then we broke out of it this week. So are we going to pull back or chop sideways for a few weeks? Maybe. But again, this is a pretty substantial, in my mind, bullish pattern. Just like I talked about earlier with Bitcoin, we expect on average more often than not for trends to continue when they rest in the direction of the primary trend. Well, the primary trend, if I zoom out here, again, ever since the pandemic low, has been up. Even before then, right, we were in a nice little uptrend until the pandemic came and smashed us down. But, we're not up that much. So we chop sideways and maybe we continue here. So essentially, let me just look at these. I'm interested in XLE just to see. Yeah, this bull flag's still chopping. To me, it still does look like a bull flag. And the fact that it's existing right here, I think is super bullish for the energy sector, right? We held this top, we came down, we broke up, and now we're just holding right above that top. That to me is super bullish. Uh, and then XLF, which is another one I'm watching. Again, I say both great for Canada, which I don't like. So that's looking very good as well. And then gold continues to be the worst investment on earth. Right? Everything else is at or near highs. There's been gold bugs in this for ages that have just missed everything. Oh yeah, I'll keep including this. This is just an idea I had for biotechs. The XBI is an equal weight biotech fund, so it doesn't give a lot of weight to Moderna and Pfizer and those big guys. And it's been in this channel pretty much all year, so it's starting to pull back here now if I move this a little bit out of the way. So I wouldn't be shocked to see a pullback, maybe even just to go shy of that low and then a pop out from there. But mainly I'm just looking at this upper trend line. If we break this upper trend line, it might be time to look at some smaller biotech names, or if you want to participate in biotechs and you're worried about those small biotech names, which I totally understand, you get a nice way to do it with just an ETF, because then, especially an equal weighted ETF, because then big news one way or the other on an individual biotech isn't going to make a huge difference. I usually don't trade ETFs, but biotechs uh, are for sure a it's a good way to do it with an ETF, just because again they are so risky. Looking here on, if you're new here, welcome. Leave a like, tell your friends. Um, this is essentially just each sector in the S&P 500 and how that sector performed throughout the week, so I can see what's strong and what's weak. There's not always information to be gleaned here, but sometimes there is. So, for example, if we go XLY and XLK, these are both risk on plays. So these risk on positions, XLY being consumer discretionary. And basically, when I say consumer discretionary, just say buying stuff you don't need. So, right, Apple laptops or Harley Davidson or things that they don't, there's consumer staples, the things that you need to eat and live, and toiletries and all that. And then consumer discretionary is just the stuff you buy for fun. And then XLK is just your technology ETF. So that's, again, stuff that you don't need. Basically, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to say, where is the money going into when I look at this screen? If I see utilities and healthcare at the highest, then I'm thinking, okay, people might be a bit worried and they're moving their money into less risky assets. When I see discretionaries and uh, technology up, I think risk on. Right? People are investing. Who knows if they're right, but people are investing in risk on type of technologies. Lastly, for this, I like to look at this, which is, again, a website I have just gone to every day for years. And this just talks about what news is coming up, and then it color codes it the best it can. So the darker red, the more interesting this website, which again has existed for 25, 30 years anyway, thinks that news is going to be. So FOMC members speak. Maybe. Are we bored of them speaking? Well, I am certainly bored of them speaking. The question is the market bored of them speaking? But I don't really think it's going to be huge. So for news, I generally look at what do people care about right now? Right now, everybody's talking about inflation all the time. So any inflation related news, I'm going to really make sure I point out, because again, all of this goes to the members, which again, this is the stuff that I would do anyway. That's kind of the point of the Stats Edge Pro service is it's everything that I've done for years anyway, just with you guys being able to look over my shoulders. So when I note that up and I say I don't think it's big news, it just means I won't really care to watch it. Yeah, I don't really, it's not that I'm not going to sell positions before it, or if I'm day trading, I'm not going to try to day trade around it. I just don't think that there's anything too much there. So, summarize crypto, strong, dollar seems fine. Shockingly, I thought the dollar would be weak, and all of FX or all of the markets look fine. The markets are strong. I am kind of intermediate term. I don't want to say bearish, but just cautious, right? We've been up. Let's go to the SPY, and we've been up. Other than this pullback, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15 days in a row with one tiny pullback in 15 days in a row. So Brian Shannon, that's his book right there. If you oh, cool. Just someone in our live chat. So yeah. Here, if you're interested. Technical Analysis Using Multiple Time Frames by Brian Shannon. It's just a great technician. A bud of mine. He's not like we go drinks all the time, but personal mentor of mine. He always just talks about how overextended or overbought conditions can resolve one of two ways, and one is price and the other is time. I'm kind of in the boat with equities that I think it's going to be time, which essentially just means chop, right? So if you look at it, where's the last time we were overbought or oversold as according to the RSI? Right here. So right in this area right here, you can see the RSI is overbought, and you can see what the price action did here, and that the RSI kind of came off without price really needing to come off. So you can, when you're overextended to the upside, you can either pull back down or you can just move sideways for a period of time. I think that we're probably if we are in for a pullback, I think dips are going to get quickly bought in this area, just because there's so many people who got tricked down here and sold out of their position or sold short, that I think on any dip in the market, we're going to have like an unrelenting bid for the next period of time. So I wouldn't be shocked if the market just does this for a couple days or a couple weeks before kind of resuming higher. Santa Claus rally, I think, is probably on the tables as well. Again, I am right slightly more than I am wrong, and I'm the first to admit that. I will change. This is why I do this. What you're seeing right now, I do this every night. It's because market's always changing, so my opinion is always changing. You come by next week and I say I'm bearish as hell. Don't say I'm a flip-flopper. It's just markets change, right? So let's go through and see, is there anything that I got to pull from the list? So this is the list as of Friday. And again, I'll show you a little bit more around Stats Edge Pro if anyone's interested. If you're interested, put in chat. I'm going to go through the list. I'm going to take off anything I'm not interested in, and then we're going to start scanning. And this is also where I'll look after your stocks if there's one you want. BRY actually bought on Friday. Basically, just looking at this kind of ascending wedge there. ME, I missed. I hope someone got, but that has to go off the list. That's no longer. Basically, I put them on the list if I think they may be interesting around that level, and the anything I take off the list doesn't necessarily mean it didn't work. It just means I'm not interested in it. It could be something like SMPL here, which I missed, but I just wouldn't buy it right up here. C, I'm going to leave on there because over that, I'm actually just going to change the prices because now I want it over 63. I just don't like that fade that it did the other day. That's why I only enter stuff on the close, but we'll make that 63 right there. SPLK, still chopping sideways. Interested in this one. Got to keep an eye on earnings, which is coming. Hey, how's it going? GoGo, I already removed. Right, that just didn't. Right, I want to go over 1950, and it just tanked the next day, which is good. I love when they do that. Don't like trick me in. Just get out of the way. PLAY, I still like this one over 9 if it gets back over 9. So I'm going to leave this in place. Let's just do my drawings. Basically, I'm just looking at this one. Right, it's got a nice little rounded bottom there, and then it has this upper area like that. So if it can close over 9, which is why, again, I always just watch the closing prices, then I'm interested. You know, it gapped up, but it sold down. If this thing continues, obviously there'll be no trade there as well. And Blade, I already talked about. I am in Blade, but I'm going to leave this one on the list just because I still like that as well. So let's start scanning. And this is where I make my face a little bigger just to hide some stuff we're working on in trade ideas. So I apologize. You have to look at me for a longer period of time. That's fine. And again, if there's any stocks that you guys are interested, let me know. But what I'm scanning for is just some pre-built scans that I have within Trade Ideas. Again, links for Stats Edge Trading, Trade Ideas, which I use. Trade Ideas is like my trading platform, so I do my scanning from it. I send most of my orders to Interactive Brokers through the auto trading system there. I use it for my day trading scanning, my swing trading scanning, all of that. And then the other one that you saw is Trendspider. I basically use that for things that Trade Ideas doesn't have access to, like crypto and FX. And then I annotate up those charts and I send those in just because they're just easier. I'm hoping Trade Ideas fixes this soon. I've put in a note too. And I just, to fix their drawing tools and stuff, just to make it easier to annotate, and we'll go from there. One of the big things to note is you guys are going to see me click through a lot of symbols, especially the Stats Edge Pro times, where you'll see stocks, you'll be like, man, it looks like Michael should like that stock. Just keep an eye up here. A new thing we have in Trade Ideas, which I love, it just tells you how many days are going on. For me, I want at least 10 days, usually, unless it looks really, really good before earnings, just because I'm not one to hold through earnings. I just don't want to take the risk. I'd just rather take the trade, get out before earnings. There's 3 scenarios for earnings. It gaps up big, in which I would be happy holding it, but it gaps down big, which I would be unhappy, or it chops sideways. And in that third instance, I can always just get back in. So for me, it's just better to be out, and then if things look interesting, get back in, as opposed to be in, hoping that I was out of it. So I'm just gonna hammer through here. And again, if anyone says, "Hey, take a look at this stock," certainly let me know. And I usually give this rant beforehand, but the reason I do these live instead of just record them and put them out there is I like the interaction. So if people have questions of, oh, why did I like that stock? Why didn't I like this stock? What do I think of this? I don't know, questions about myself and the way that I trade, or Stats Edge trading, or Trade Ideas, or Trendspider, or whatever. I'm here for another little bit, so love chatting with you. It's going to be hard, I think, to find things. And again, the watch list for the room has been a little light over the last week and a bit. But that's on purpose. And it's because when the market is straight up the way it is now, it gets really hard to buy things because I'm thinking that the market could pull back, right? So I don't want to be fully invested when that happens. But B, anything that hasn't gone when the market's been straight up, I'm kind of worried about because there's some relative weakness there. So I'm going to try to find a lot of things that are about to break out and things that are kind of putting in RSI divergences or some sort of revision to the mean pattern. And that's just simply because the way the market works. And that's why you guys notice that I have a routine when I start this, and it's the same routine I do every night when I'm in this same room, but without the mic and without the camera. And it's because I want to know what all of the markets look like. What are the crypto markets? What are the currency markets look like? What are the ETFs that I watch? What do they look like? And then I use that to frame what am I going to scan for. Because right now, if there's something really high up and just making a base, it still might be good, but I have to ask myself, why didn't it go? So that's why I go through those different ETFs, like the energy ETF. We went through XLE, is because if I see energy stuff chopping sideways or financial stuff chopping sideways, then I know that that makes sense because that's what their ETF is doing. If I look at something like XLK, so I see something in the technology sector that hasn't run recently, I'm a little bit worried about it because why hasn't it run? Your whole sector has been running. Why are you weak to the sector? So that's why I think it's going to be a little bit harder to make sure just to find kind of what it is that I need to see, which I will never force kind of the big list. So what do we have on the list now? 6 names. We may get to 10, maybe if I can find that many. So Sam got some Twitter. Yeah, that's counter trend trading. Hope works for you, but that's I'm more of a I want to buy the stuff that's been strong recently or has some sort of a potential breakout trigger. But for a longer term name, Twitter's not going anywhere. They might get regulated or something into the ground, but yeah, we're into the seas and I haven't seen anything. Dimensional ETF. Fancy. I don't even know what this is. Who knows? It's something. Looks interesting. Yeah, the Twitter, again, fundamentally, it's fine. Technically, it looks like hell. So just be careful with that. Software publisher, game technology. Interesting little look. Average volume, 300,000 shares. Earnings are getting, it says right up there, earnings on 5 days. No. And this has been the theme, and it will continue to be the theme. Like this one to me looks interesting. This EL, right, we have this kind of rounded bottom, and then we broke out of that, and then we pulled in with this sideways chop. But earnings in 2 days, so can't do it. And that's the hard part. And there's about 2 to 3 weeks every quarter in which you come across this pain and you're just like, what do I do? And for me, it's just a game. It's a game of you gotta find the things that have earnings a long distance away or just had earnings and haven't moved very much, and you gotta just take those trades accordingly. Oh, Fisker's running too. I missed that one. I think I have some Fiskers in a longer term portfolio somewhere. But man, all the way into the G's and not a single thing that I like. and that's fine, right? Like I will be 100% fine if I go through all of my scans and I find nothing that's interesting to me. Then there's nothing that's interesting to me. Oh, earnings. Kind of like the look of this one. A little RSI divergence going here. So this is a play that I'm playing with more and more. Is you connect the lows of price, and if they're moving down, you connect the lows of the RSI, and they're moving up. It's a momentum diversion. So it's kind of showing you that, hey, maybe on this sell off, there's a little bit of momentum that's running out. And there may be time to look for a reversal of that, right? We had that same thing here on whatever this thing is before it started moving, right? So we were making lows here and then higher lows right there. And that kind of was a precursor to that pop. But just like anything, it's just one part of a setup, but it's got me interested enough that I'm going to start going and paying more and more attention to them, which is how a lot of my best setups happen. Is I just notice something happening and I notice that, okay, if I had taken that, it would have been good. If I took this one, it would have been good. And Johnson Controls, warm air and heating. So it already had earnings. So it's an HVAC company. Nothing in the way of a short float, but I just like it's got a pretty clear level here at 75. So strong stock, obviously. I like to buy stuff that's strong and sell stuff that's weak. If there's one kind of statistic that if there's one thing you want to take from me is buying stuff that's been strong and selling stuff that's been weak is way easier than trying to pick bottoms. Even if you're looking for if you are looking to pick bottoms, which I have some strategies on, as long as they are in uptrends, it makes your life easier. And then it kind of popped from that sell off, and now it's been chopping sideways here. So a little bull flag. So yeah, okay, I'm going to add JCI. So let's bring up this one. JCI, and 75 seems to be the number here. So we're going to do 75, and then worst case would be like 72. That's actually a pretty good risk reward. Oh. And just a nice, you go back on this one, you can see just a nice strong stock. Just trying to get a little bit in the direction of the overall move on that one. How can you kind of participate in strength in a way that you can really easily define your risk, which is why I never buy anything that's been up. Oh, I'm sorry. Every time I do that, my ugly mug's in the way. Hold on. Let's just go wide. Does that help? A little bit. And then let's just, so I don't have to change the camera every time, we'll do that. There we go. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking at for JCI. This 75 area is big, and then 72 is right down here. So let's just draw that up. This is one of the things that I think is valuable about this service is you get to see how I see stocks, whether you agree or not. Again, I'm no guru. But it's like, oh, okay, that's what he's looking at kind of thing. Huge. No, thank you. Earnings, but look at how ugly. And it's hard to quantify that, but like look at every candle has a giant top wick and a giant bottom wick, like every single candle. And all the wicks are overlapping. And so look at that. And then let's go to JCI and how much, even though it's little janky because it's a ADR, how smooth that is. Let's go into something that's really smooth, like an apple, right? So now let's go back to huge. again, it's one of those things that it's just by eye. I pick it up, but there's been like 5 cent moves some days, and it's just janky looking. So, oh, JCI is huge. Oh, okay. I thought you were looking at the stock huge. I'm like, bah. So LNG, so natural gas. So we have an idea that that ETF is going. That's interesting. I'll think about that one. INS. Do not like that candle in INS, that big rejection candle. No, I guess maybe if you got to close over 43.50, just not my thing. I'm just a very setup driven trader. So if they meet my setup, then I'm interested. And if they don't meet my specific setup, doesn't mean they're not going to do great. Just not interested. Which for me, it has to be some kind of congestion. It's going to be at highs. Palantir's putting in, and then there's earnings. It's like Palantir, maybe. Every time it gets like over this 28 area, it gets rejected hard. Might be too many bag holders in Palantir. There's just earnings coming. Platinum Metal Group. Hasn't Platinum been on fire? That thing's been getting hammered. Too wild. Junky looking. Yeah, just might not be might not be the day. We got a couple more scans we're going to go through after this, but jeez. And this is it's funny. One of my old trading mentors always used to say that you'll know you made it as a trader when you sat down, you put in the work. This was for day trading, and he said the entire day goes by and you don't place a trade. And it's something that's really hard mentally for traders to do, to go through and to look at the market and say, nope, nothing here meets what I'm after, and walk away. And there's that need almost to really say, I got to trade something. I got to trade something. But I'm, I guess, old enough and there's enough gray in my beard that I just don't care anymore. If I get to the end of all my lists and there's nothing there, then there's nothing there. So we're almost at the end of this list, and that's 166 tickers. So with the ETFs and the other ones I'm going to go through, we're going to be at, by the time we're done, we're going to have gone through 250 to 500 stocks. And if after that I can't find anything that's super interesting to me, then I just shouldn't trade. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. So this other one I'm kind of interested in. So this scan right here is looking for rounded bottom type of scans. So it's looking for things that have put in really good bases. And I've noticed that things that do put in good bases like that, you'll often see these RSI divergences just naturally occurring in here. But I need to make sure there's something that's earnings out of the way, something that makes sense. I don't like to be the one that gets the downtick. Like, you'll never see me buying something that's doing this right here. But after it's bounced and it put in something, maybe. I'm kind of looking. Is this the new Weight Watchers? Is that they're not called Weight Watchers anymore, right? Yeah, because I don't know why. They probably upset someone or something. But 1950 and 17, I do kind of like the look of this one. So you can see, let's actually just do it all here. We'll go WW. So earnings out of the way, which is good. This thing's been getting hammered, but it looks like it may have bottomed. So again, I'm not buying it as the thing's selling. I never want to be the one doing that. I think that's incredibly dangerous. But you see the higher highs here in the RSI and then the lower highs here in price. And then it's put in this right here. So this area, call it, I don't know, 1950, was resistance right there. And then it was resistance again yesterday there on a engulfing candle. So we have this nice engulfing candle right here. So if we can close above 1950, I am certainly interested in this one. So we'll go watch 1950. Oops. And this has a lot to do with, again, what I was talking about with the markets, where the markets are, I don't want to buy stuff that's right at highs or basing at highs, because why hasn't it participated? But the thing I like about this is a few days after earnings, and again, this igniting candle right here, they gapped it down lower and they closed right at this resistance, that if we break this resistance on Monday, it just may be time for these short covers to come in. It doesn't have an insane short float, but it is about 10% of the float, which is pretty interesting to me. Days to cover is another way to look at short float. If you don't know what days to cover is, it's essentially it takes the amount of shares of the float that is shorted and divides it by volume. So say the stock does 1 million shares a day and there's 3 million shares short. That means that if something happens and the stock moves up violently, that it would take 3 days of buying for those shorts to get out of their short position. It's another interesting way to look at it on top of percentage. Not that that's an insanely high number or anything, but it's something that's interesting. I've seen this in a few scans and I actually like it, but it's got earnings on Tuesday, so I can't. I just like the nice rounded base in this DRNA. I'm assuming it's just like an mRNA kind of thing, but it's got the wick off bottom, which is just you find a channel and then you look for that channel to get broken and then bought back up. So this is a really strong looking accumulation pattern to me, but just earnings. So it's nothing you can do. And as always, if you're interested with Stats Edge Pro, you get access to all these scans as well. Most of them just can't be shared because they have complicated customs and a lot of customs involved, but that's all broken down on the website, how to put those in and change that. And then any scans that I have, I try to recreate the scans in Trendspider that I have in Trade Ideas, but it's not as a robust scanner. I love the guys over there. Their charts are great. You guys see that I use them because they're just better for annotation, and they have access to crypto and FX, which I don't have with Trade Ideas, but their scanning is just not as robust. So again, just more examples of RSI divergences, right? There's one right here where this thing's moving down and this is moving up, and I like it after it bounces and then it puts in some sort of a pattern, but earnings. And this is just the theme of it. So if anyone is a pro member and you're like, hey, the list has been kind of short and a little lame recently, it's just because I'm not going to fight to add things when I don't think there's anything there, right? I would rather take the day off and spend the time building another scan or studying new ideas or uh, any number of things, sleeping in the hammock, than putting my money to risk at things that are not my A plus setups, which I have like three. It's bull flags at highs, it's kind of cup and handle style patterns, and now it's starting to be these RSI divergence patterns. They're just, pretty strong. I'm noticing as a way to kind of pick a bottom without actually picking a bottom, right? Without trying to bottom fish a move. Let's look at the 8 table 2.0. Ooh, this is interesting. And there's earnings in 5 days. So the reason I thought this was interesting, I always like to point out before I move on, right? You've got the what you could call a cup here. It moves up right to this high, and then it puts in some consolidation, and it has a 37% short float. So if we break that, we can continue. When it comes to resistance, it's all the way up here. And we can go from there. But earnings, so what do? This question, did I quit using the TI auto trading feature? No, I use it all the time. Yeah, I enter most of my trades through some, these type of things are discretionary, but I've got a couple auto strategies I use. And then I use most of what I do now is some sort of 50-50 of understanding the statistics behind something and then applying those statistics to my eye, right? So a hybrid of that type of thing. I don't think that you can just, again, I have some and they do okay for most times, but just turning on something and walking away, that doesn't seem to be the best use of time. So I scan. What I do a lot with actually these things right here, and I have a video about it if you look on the channel, is you can plug these into a symbol list and you can say, hey, if they're doing X, Y, and Z at a certain time of day and they haven't gapped or they haven't done this, and you can just build all these rule sets around it and you say, I want to take the trade. And I do a lot of my swing trades like that where they'll enter in that last hour of the day if they're holding above certain levels and if they're doing this and that and the other thing. So, again, a hybrid approach I think is best. There's a lot of people out there that just they want to auto trade to not have to do anything, and I think that's the wrong move. But using a hybrid approach works out pretty well for me anyway, I think. But yeah, so I use a Brokerage Plus all the time. Even more than just the auto trading, I like the ability just to click on the chart and then click on the stock of where I'm interested in and have it go from there. Nicola perking up, the old scammy Nicola. I don't think they've built a single truck yet, have they? So this scan I'm looking at now is just a scan where the stock's above a short-term moving average and has a really high short float. So you'll see a lot of the stuff here is like, it's ranked by short float. So as we go down, this will get lower and lower. But this is a pretty interesting looking float there. Oh, this AUPH is interesting. What do you guys do? Pharmaceutical. Yeah, let's give AUPH a shot. AUPH. Did I do WW? That's 1950. That's AUPH. All right, we've got this nice tight flag going on. We got a 15% short float. We have earnings out of our way on this funny little candle here. I'm not worried about this being overextended with the market because it is a pharmaceutical preparation company, which I think just means they usually do like tools and stuff or technologies for it. And you're talking 34 and then 30. So do I think it could get up into the 40s? Certainly. So let's watch. Uh, and remember, these are always worst case stops for me, right? I never look at these and say, okay, I'm gonna risk all the way down to 30 for sure. But I always like to put a worst case stop in. But for me, if this closed like if I bought this at 33, which is probably a better number, um, and then it closed back under 31, or yeah, even 30, I guess is okay. I'd be out. Just how I trade. I would enjoy someday a webinar on using custom formulas and the ways it can be incorporated. It'd be nice to see a trade must funner to incorporate my own ideas. Well, yes, you should incorporate your own ideas. So, again, I have a video that might be good to tie you over on the custom formula editor. So I'll share this with you. I found it there. But it's just a way, so, trading, especially auto trading, should be this is my setup that I understand and that I've built and that makes sense to me. And I've done the work and I've tested it and it makes perfect sense. And now let me just automate that, right? It's like you don't want to just back test something and have it work. It should be something that makes sense to you, and then you automate that. So when it comes to custom formulas, the only benefit to a custom formula is to say, hey, this is something that I can't normally do in the trade idea system. I have an idea that I've worked hard to create, and I can't do that in the trade idea system. Maybe I can do it with custom formulas. But the custom formula editor can only really modify current existing filters. So you can't, create something that doesn't exist within it. So it's just a little bit of an added, oh, hey, I can do this type of thing. That sage is kind of interesting. Let's look at the weekly chart. The weekly chart doesn't look much better, does it? Let's do, but it is putting in a higher low on the weekly. Properties, show indicators. So it's got a long time there. Not really, does it? What about an anchored view app from high here? No, so that's 55. Where would my stop? So my stop would be 45 and my entry would be 48. So $3. No, I don't really like that one. It's an interesting look. Just a big base. Again, not a bottom picker, but I like, if I'm gonna buy stuff that's bottoming out, I want to see like the RSI divergence or a nice big long base or something to have a level to lean off of. Tax looks good, but it has earnings. All right, one more scan. I'm going a little bit over, but I'm just trying to find something. But you know, I gotta walk the fine line of when am I fighting to find things that I shouldn't. I should just give up, and then how long to push it, basically. I think these media group ones for the next little bit, if you see one of these that looks good, ignore a lot of them. Again, not American. I've got no dog in your political fights you got going down there. But I think things like SLM moved with DWAC because I think they're conservative media sources. So people thought with Trump's thing that he may be opening. I had a programmer buddy tell me on the weekend that I guess the code for that DWAC was just stolen. Like they just went online, they took some open source code and stole it. So he thinks that there's a pretty good chance that they're going to get shut down. Um, and I wouldn't trade off any of that. I don't trade off that kind of news speculation. But I just think those things moved because DWAC moved. And because DWAC is kind of calming down now, even if it doesn't get shut down, it's still just chilling out a bit. That those other ones are probably going to go back to obscurity where they came. I think there was a brief moment for what was the other one? It was in TI Strength for a while. There it was MDIA or AI. Yeah, MDIA. It perked up as well. I actually bought some right here in around 850. And then when it broke under 8, I got stopped out of this one. It looks like it might just be on its way back to the depths of which it came. But yeah, if you have any specific questions, if you're like, hey, I've really worked hard to find and build this scan, but I can't do this one thing in trade ideas, and I want help with customs, ask away. You can ask here usually on Fridays. I'm going to try this. I don't leave the numbers of how many people are watching up because I find that distracting, but I'll look at that after the fact. So yeah, if you want me to look at one of those things and say, hey, I need help with this, you can do it there. And then also on Trade Ideas channel on Tuesday, I'm there for a Q&A to help out. So that might help as well. This thing looks a little long in the tooth, but man, it's a popular one. It's a Santa. I think it's like a project management software. I'm going to avoid it though, just because I'm seeing this RSI divergence to the upside, which is another way I'm using this potential take profit or to avoid. Just saying that this new high took way less energy than that new high, so maybe the buyers are running out of steam. And this thing went from $40. What's that? Or is that lower? 35 to 130. So, this second move looked like it would have been great. This third one, I don't think so much. It's probably going to move with like Upwork and those different project management style, work from home type names. Credit business. No, not seeing much and not going to fight it. Yeah, we're into the sixes. This is another one that I sort by short float. Just got to sort by something, right? Everything that looks good has earnings next week, and everything that looks okay, I think I've already added to the list. So I'll open it up one more time for some Q&A, or if anyone has any questions or if anyone has any charts for me to go over. And if not, I'll probably call it a day and enjoy the rest of my Sunday. But it's don't fret is all I have to say. There would be a time, even not too long ago, where by not finding things like this, like going through all of these and not finding them, I would find myself forcing trades. I would find myself taking things that maybe didn't look as good just because I have nothing else to do. And as a day trader, I was really bad at that. I always used trade ideas, so I always had kind of really good scanners. And I'm talking 15 years ago, I was using trade ideas with it. And then I would find that if I didn't find something with my scanners, that I didn't have anything to do, and it was the whole, oh, if I don't trade, I don't make any money, and I would start scrambling to do that and scrambling to try to find things to make. And that was absolutely the wrong move, which I know I've learned a while ago, but when I did, it was one of those aha moments. In trading, you'll have these aha moments, and they'll just, I think, bump you up a tier as a trader. right? From losing a lot to losing a little to break even to making a little to hopefully making a lot. And it was just one of those, oh, I don't have to always find something. So even for my day trading, I have the TI Auto Trader where I have some auto trading strategies I just feed symbols into and I have them auto trade it for me. And then I have some discretionary strategies, but it's all like super simplified. If the scan gives me something and that thing looks good, then I'll take the trade. And same with my scanning here at night. There would be times where I'd be scanning until the sun went down to go through and say, hey, give me something to make money on Monday. I don't really see anything I love. I have my list of 10 stocks there, and that's, I think, all I'm going to do. Yeah, NLY has just got too much resistance just immediately overhead for me. Brett, the way I'm seeing this is just you've got that massive level right there, and then you've got another pretty significant level at 9, and then you have the gap close at 925, and then you have the high at around 950. So you have a lot to get through. And we'll just contrast that with my WW. The next big resistance I see is at 24. Yeah, maybe the underside of this could be something, but the last time sellers really came in and took control was at 24, and then we have a gap fill at 30. So yeah, just, my risk is, if I buy in even over 20, my stop's going to be right here. So I'm going to be risking this. So then if I make that, I'm happy. And if I make that, I'm very happy. But when I look at something like NLY, it's in the middle of this massive, massive range. And then I don't even know, zooming out. Oops. Just go to the weekly chart. This is the stuff that I use Trendspider for. Yeah, just in the middle of a big range. How about scanning higher caps? I don't have any cap limit on mine. There's they either meet my setup or they don't. I don't care about cap. I think JCI that I put on it would be a pretty big cap, wouldn't it? Market cap 53 billion. Yeah, so that's a mega cap. I don't put cap limits on mine either to the upside or the downside. For me, it's what's the setup? Is it a setup that I've back tested and I've worked really hard to make sure makes sense to me and I understand why it works and blah blah all the rants that I normally do? Cap be damned. It's just what am I risking versus what am I making? So these don't have anything that would stop any mega caps from coming in. Now, I would say that I generally don't like to trade bigger caps, and the reason behind that is because they don't move as much. So you have to allocate way more capital to get the same percentage gain as a mid cap or a smaller cap. I generally don't go into the micro cap side of things, like OTC traded stuff, just because that's more of a safety issue. But yeah, I don't. None of my scans have any sort of cap filters. So if they make them, if they make my setup, they'll be in there. And if they don't make my setup, they won't be in there. Like we all saw that A, B, and B was all over my setups, but we couldn't trade it because of the earnings. But I kept saying that I loved it doing this thing, right? It had a tiny bit of resistance here, but it had a big one right up, and that was a long way away. This is a huge cap stock as well, 124 billion. So again, I don't think it matters that much. It's too slow and it's too gross. And again, I really wish I could say something other than gross for how it looks, but I guess wickiness would be another way to put it. So like just look at all of like especially let's just zoom real in on the last bit. Just look at how the wicks and the overlapping wicks throughout just shows me that this is just kind of probably a lower volume, yeah, average 70K shares. And yeah, so it just looks, when I look at that chart, when I brought it up, it's instantly I look at that and I go, that's gross. I'm not going to trade that. And it's just like, it can't be quantified other than the fact that I bet you if you look at this thing through the day, it's a $5 stock with a 25-cent spread. Um, a lot of that has to do with the fact that it's an ADR. So it's from, now's where I get to learn a new flag. Come on. I'm supposed to hover over it, and it's supposed to tell me Luxembourg? Man, my eyes are old. Yeah, Luxembourg. So it's an ADR, which essentially just means most of the trading happens over in Luxembourg. And then, when the markets open our time, we adjust. But it's just when I see that many overlapping wicks, it just means that no one really cares about it here. And it's just gross. So it's going to trade gross. Now, that being said, that low of shares, if you're right, you're really going to bang it out of the park, but you're going to take mad slippage in and mad slippage out, I think. So I try to go over 250,000 average daily is kind of where most of my scans, I think. Let's just check. I think most of my scans sit. No, that's only 150,000. So that wouldn't have made it on this one anyway. But yeah, I usually do about 250,000 average daily as I want to see. Or, and this will always overwrite it. If it's doing, so say it did 100,000 shares last month and that was on average, but this month it's doing like 500,000 to a million. So people care about it now, then that will overwrite that average daily. But again, just don't see much here. But all right, guys, hour and a half. I went over, tried to find something, couldn't. Gonna call it here. Enjoy the rest of my Sunday. Enjoy the rest of yours. If you haven't liked the stream and you can on your way out, that would be fantastic. The algorithm loves that. YouTube sends me an email once a week saying, hey, tell the people to like the stream on the way out. If you're interested in any of the tools I used, links in the description below. That pays me directly, just adds up their affiliate links. I don't like to ever hide that. But these are the tools I use. I get approached by a lot of affiliates I won't be a part of because I don't use the tools. And then if you're interested in Stats Edge Pro, again, I do this hour and a half of work every night, summarize it all into a nice little blog post, and send that directly to you. So it's a good way to get that kind of input on your trading. And yeah, more videos coming. I've been kind of lax on the channel, but I'm always trying to come up with new ideas for videos. If you have any, you can send them in. There's a little blog submission or form submission post on my website, Twitter, email, whatever. Let me know what you want to see for a video. I always want to make more. I just kind of run out of ideas from time to time. So send that away, and I will talk to you guys soon. Trade safe out there and enjoy your Sundays. Get away from the screens.